Chapter 61, Training the Saint, Seeking Follow-up Reading. Beyond the ordinary or above the extraordinary is the holy level, that is an existence beyond level 100. Why would a high-level professional like Imprisoning possess saint-level skills? Is this the daughter of the golden rule? The high-level ones have holy-level skills. Could it be that the god of the golden law is watching Ophelia? Would it be discovered that he had imprisoned Ophelia? For the first time, Lear felt a little panicked, but he still appeared calm on the surface. The system panel jumped again, this time with a prompt that the affinity of the golden law had increased by another 0.1%, which was better than nothing. As he absorbed more and more of Ophenina's blood, the increase in the affinity of the golden rule became much slower. Lear calmly let go of Ophenina. The saint's cheeks were rosy and she looked at Lear with resentment in her eyes, but there was also some other emotions inexplicably mixed in. Without noticing Ophenina's abnormality, Lear clicked on the introduction of the Hymn of Hope. Holy Tear Skill, Hymn of Hope Introduction. Holy skill bestowed upon Saint Ophenina by the Golden Law Effect. Chant the Hymn of Hope. The power of the Golden Law will continuously heal and purify all friendly targets within a range of 100 meters, restore all injuries, and clear and reverse all abnormal conditions. The healed targets will not be affected by the same abnormal condition again within days. 5000 1100 10010003. Requirements: Golden Law Affinity 30%, Intelligence 60, Mysticism 60. The current Golden Law Affinity is insufficient and cannot be used. Looking at the skill introduction of Anthem of Hope, Lear's eyes widened. Isn't this the Group Pro Max version of God's Blessing? No wonder Imprisoning nodded and shook her head just now. With the Hymn of Hope, she is indeed able to heal those infected, but the consumption is too great. Ophenina is high level, and with her own leadership template, her magic power increases by an additional 200%, which means her total magic power is around 4000. There are not many more cheats than Lear, and they do not even meet the minimum requirements for activating the Anthem of Hope. Lear glanced at his own magic value, 3200, which did not meet the requirement to activate the Anthem of Hope, but Lear was not panicked at all. He has a blue secret dewdrop bottle. All skills are free of consumption within 60 seconds, so this is the path to becoming a savior. Lear's eyes lit up slightly, and in an instant he thought of many ways to use the Hymn of Hope to maximize the benefits. Looking at Lear with an evil smile, Ophelia shuddered and asked, "What are you laughing at?" Lear came back to his senses. "I thought of something happy." Ophenina wanted to ask what the happy thing was, but she swallowed the words after opening her mouth. She always felt that something bad was about to happen. Lear stared at Ophenina, and he was indeed thinking bad things. The requirement for using Anthem of Hope is 30% affinity with the Golden Rule, but he currently only has 16.8%, which is totally insufficient. It seems that we have to inconvenience the saint a bit and raise the affinity of the Golden Law to 30% before UR completes the purification ceremony of the slums. He reached out and lifted Ophelia's chin, and said with a smile, "Your Highness, can you please do me a favor?" "What do you want to do?" Imprisoning struggled instinctively. Lear did not answer, but summoned the life-binding shackles again, wrapped one end around the beam above his head, and then slowly picked up Ophelia. "What are you going to do?" "Let me go." Ophenina struggled even more violently, but Lear turned a blind eye. 5 minutes later. "Put me down, you bastard." Ophenina's face flushed. She was really a little scared. She was now hanging in the air, showing herself in front of Lear in an extremely shameful posture. A lot of her clothes were taken off, revealing a large area of snow-white skin and white thighs. With the chains on her body, her perfect figure was clearly visible, making her look particularly charming. "Your Highness, I'm sorry. I do all this to save the people who are in disaster. Your efforts will definitely be worthwhile," Lear said seriously. In order to improve the affinity of the Golden Rule as quickly as possible, he had to take some extreme measures. Ophenina almost went crazy after hearing this. "What do you mean by saving the people? What does saving people have to do with hanging her up and posing her in such a shameful manner? It's obviously your evil XP, you put it so righteously. The Golden Rule source material carrier's shame, anger, and humiliation emotional fluctuation values have reached 97%, and you have gained 3% of the Golden Rule affinity." The prompt on the system panel jumped in front of my eyes, and it suddenly increased by 3%, one step closer to 30%. Lear smiled. He had only hung Ophelia up, and his affinity with the Golden Rule had increased so much at once. It seemed that it should not be difficult to reach the 30% requirement. Thinking in his mind, with Ophenina's murderous look in his eyes, He took out a whip from somewhere, swung it, and whipped off Anina's weak body. The force was not strong, and Ophelia only felt slight pain and a tingling sensation. Ophelia's eyes suddenly widened. What is this doing? Is it to humiliate me? Or is it to discipline myself? Anina had also secretly read those banned books when she was in the Vatican. She had only seen such an experience in those banned books. What are you doing? Ophelia's voice trembled a little. Lear did not respond, but looked at the saint in the air in confusion. Why was there no increase in the affinity of the golden law? He swung the whip again, this time with more force, and hit Ophelia's waist and hips. Ufangina pursed her lips, feeling a little painful, but after the pain, Ufangina inexplicably felt a sense of comfort. She let out a seductive gasp. Hearing this voice, Lear had a strange expression on his face. Could you please not make such misleading noises? People who don't know would think you are doing something unspeakable. Well, although it is a bit unspeakable to hang Ophelia up and whip her like this, it is for the people in the slums after all. Lear justifies himself in his mind. Anina's face turned red. She gritted her teeth and forced herself to suppress the strange feeling in her body. Your Highness, could you please not make such noises? I am a normal man. Are you trying to seduce me? Lear said jokingly. When Ufangina heard this, she was stunned for a moment, and then she went crazy. The saint of the Golden Church. Would I seduce a heretic? Do you want to listen to what you are saying? And why do I make such a sound? Don't you know? Lear, you vile, shameless, filthy pagan. You shall die. Anina's cheeks flushed red, and she no longer looked like a saint. Her hair was disheveled, and she was cursing like a shrew. The golden rule source material carrier's shame, anger, and humiliation emotional fluctuation values have reached 99%, and you have gained 3% of the golden rule affinity. Your golden law affinity reaches 20%, you gain strength +2, constitution +2, dexterity +2, intelligence +2, mysticism +2. Looking at the system prompt that appeared in front of him, a smile of success appeared on Lear's face. End of this chapter. Chapter 62. Recruiting players. Please read. Training a saint is not a matter of a day or two. After enduring Lear's whippings many times, Ophiana's emotional fluctuations gradually eased and she slowly got used to it. He just gritted his teeth and let the whip hit him. Lear was helpless. His affinity with the golden law, which had been increasing rapidly, stagnated again. It is currently 24.3%, which is still a little short of Anthem of Hope's 30%. That's all for today. Lear sighed. He left the basement under Ophiana's murderous gaze. Walking out of the basement, Ino stood at the door with a strange expression. Lear did not explain anything, but just ordered, go and put Ophelia down, and keep her locked up. The next day at a restaurant outside the slums of Royal City, Dahe looked at Li Huanhuan with resentment on his face. Li Huanhuan, you promised to say good things about me to Lear. You can't burn your bridges after crossing them. Li Huanhuan sat on a chair, sipping tea to hide her embarrassment. It was indeed Dahe's credit that the task assigned by Lear was completed, but when she saw Lear's shop, she was so excited that she forgot Dahe's request. Do you know how I got here these past few days? I ran to the noble district to look for you, but the soldiers stopped me and said that poor people were not allowed to enter. How do I look like a pauper? I sent you a message but you didn't even reply. Dahe cried as he told us about his experience. After giving several times, all his novice clothes were exposed. In the middle of winter, he was left with only clothes that could cover his privacy. He was now wearing the novice clothes that Li Huanhuan had just given him. In contrast, Li Huanhuan and Yao Yao had already changed into exquisite civilian clothes that looked very valuable. The first thing they did after getting the money from Lear was to change their clothes. I'm sorry, Dahe. Yao Yao and I just saw the message you sent. We still have some money left. Let me change your clothes and then take you to find Lear. Yao Yao also plans to go to Lear. Li Huanhuan answered with some guilt. Dahe felt much better. He looked at Yao Yao and said, you want to go to Lear? I remember that you and Li Huanhuan both accepted the recruitment of the Blood Apostle Munda, right? I prefer Mr. Lear. He teaches many spells in his shop. I plan to become a wizard like Mr. Lear. Don't you think Mr. Lear is handsome? Yao Yao said with longing on her face. Dahe's eyes twitched slightly, and he ignored the infatuated woman and looked at Li Huanhuan. What about you, Valkyrie? Me? Li Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, then said seriously. I still plan to follow Munger and join the blood cult. While the three were talking, a group of people in wizard robes came over from a distance. There were about 50 of them, led by a man in gorgeous clothes, holding a luxurious staff in his hand. The scene immediately attracted the attention of the three people. Dahe's eyes lit up. He knew that people in the royal city who were dressed gorgeously usually had noble identities, just like Lear, whom Li Huanhuan had met before. He immediately wanted to cast a detection spell on it, but was stopped by Li Huanhuan's quick eyes and hands. Are you crazy? Don't you know that the NPCs in the game can sense the detection technique? Do you still want to be arrested? Dahe was stunned for a moment, then he reacted and stopped what he was doing with some disappointment. Li Huanhuan glared at Dahe, then asked the restaurant owner standing nearby, "Boss, do you know who those people outside are?" The boss raised his head and took a look. That's Lord Duke Norton. He should be bringing people to maintain order in the slums, right? Recently, many nobles have taken turns to bring their family professionals to the slums to search for the whereabouts of heretics. You should also know about the plague spreading in the slums of the royal city, right? The boss said with a hint of disgust. It's really a damn heresy. I really hope that the Golden Church and the kingdom can find those heretics as soon as possible. Now that the slums are blocked, fewer people come to eat here. Boss, your restaurant is so close to the slums, aren't you afraid of contracting the plague? Li Huanhuan asked again. Of course I am afraid. How can I not be afraid? But even if you are afraid, what can I do? The restaurant owner was somewhat helpless. I used to be from the slums. I was lucky enough to get some money and opened a restaurant here. My wife and son rely on the restaurant for their livelihood. Even if I'm afraid, I have no choice but to continue. Listening to the boss's complaints, the three of them looked at each other and said nothing. In the afternoon, at Stuart Mansion, Lear met with three players. You want to work for me? Yes, Mr. Lear. Yao Yao and Dahe answered respectfully. Lear looked at Dahe. This was the first time he saw him. Mr. Lear, Dahe and Yao Yao are both my companions. We are also extraordinary people. The clues to finding the corrupt believers last time were also provided by Dahe. Li Huanhuan stepped forward to testify for Dahe. Lear pondered for a moment. He was still very satisfied with Li Huanhuan and the other two. They were all famous anchors, which was enough to provide him with certain publicity for recruiting players in the future. After a moment of silence, he spoke quietly. Of course you can work for me. I am very satisfied with your abilities. But you are aliens, and in the eyes of the Golden Church you are heretics. I can recruit you, but for now I can only do it in secret. You cannot act outside under my name for the time being. Even so, are you still willing to work for me? Yao Yao and Dahe said without hesitation, we are willing. They were not there for Lear's noble status, they were more interested in Lear the man and the items in the store. In that case, I welcome you to join us. Lear nodded with a smile. Lear Stuart's favorability towards you has increased, currently at friendly. Yao Yao and Dahe looked delighted, and Dahe also noticed that a store icon appeared above Lear's head. Li Huanhuan, who was standing by, looked at the notification that her favorability had increased and felt a little embarrassed. She had only come here to accompany Yao Yao and Dahe, and she had no intention of working for Lear at all, but now Lear seemed to have included her. She was a little confused about whether to explain it to Lear. After being silent for a while, she finally chose to give up. It would be too rude to say it now. If Lear had a bad impression of her, it would not be worth it. Besides, he was only working for Lear verbally, but he didn't say that he couldn't continue to follow the blood apostle. Lear didn't know what Li Huanhuan was thinking. Recruiting these players was only the first step. He thought for a few seconds and said in a deep voice, you are my men now. I will give you a mission. Go to the slums to monitor the actions of Duke Norton and the Golden Church. Surveillance? The three were stunned. Yes, the Golden Church and Duke Norton intend to purify the infected people in the entire slum. They will set up a purification ritual array in the slum. You go and watch. If there is anything abnormal or it is almost completed, tell me the progress. Purify the entire slum? Is it to purify and cure those infected with the plague? Li Huanhuan asked. It's purification, not healing. Lear shook his head, looked out the window towards the slums, and said meaningfully, they plan to kill everyone in the slums. End of this chapter. Chapter 63 Saint, Am I a pervert? The actions of the Golden Church and the Duke of Norton were carried out in secret, and the purification of the slums was not known to the public. Although this cruel extermination campaign is justified, once it is exposed, the entire slum will riot. No one likes to have their destiny decided by others. On the roof of a simple house, two crows watched the wizard, who was constantly constructing patterns on the ground in the slums. Something is wrong, Delagy said in a serious tone. What's wrong? Eric, who had also turned into a crow, asked puzzledly on the other side. They seem to be constructing a ritual array. Delric ignored Eric's questions, flapped his wings and flew to the largest square in the slums. Duke Norton was placing magic stones that exuded a holy aura in a circular magic circle on the ground. The patterns of the magic circle extended from the center to all directions, sinking into every corner of the slum. Father? Eric, who flew over, also saw Duke Norton and his eyes became a little cold. This is the Golden Church's purification array. They actually intend to purify the entire slum. Derek's tone was a little shocked and angry. Purify the entire slum? Eric was stunned. That's right. I didn't expect that the big shot from the Golden Church would be so decisive. We must prepare. Derek flapped his wings, looked at Duke Norton in the center, and said quietly, Lear stayed at home these days and didn't go out. He has been teasing Ophelia, and the affinity of the Golden Rule has increased to 28.1%, just one step away from 30%. The fact that the Golden Church and Duke Norton were planning to purify the entire slum was eventually exposed, and Duke Norton had to free up manpower to blockade the slum and suppress the riots that occurred from time to time in the slum. Many people have died not at the hands of corruption, but at the hands of Duke Norton. But Lear didn't care about these. He had to increase the affinity of the Golden Rule to 30% before the ceremony was completed. He came to the secret room again, and Ophelia was still locked in the secret room. These days he has been trying every possible way to increase his affinity with the Golden Rule, but the effect is becoming weaker and weaker. Although Ophelia looked like she wanted to fight him to the death, Lear always felt that something was wrong. Looking at Ophelia's closed eyes and frown, Lear was silent. It was becoming increasingly different from what he had imagined. Aren't you ashamed? Lear asked. Shame? Ophelia was stunned. She gritted her teeth and didn't know what was wrong with her. When she was whipped at first, she was very angry and wanted to cut Lear into pieces, but as time went by, this emotion slowly disappeared. Under Lear's whipping, she became more and more accustomed to it and even felt pleasure. Ophelia felt that she was guilty and a sinner. I must be possessed by a demon, otherwise why would I feel this way? Your Highness, you don't have some strange hobby, do you? Lear leaned close to Ophelia's ear and whispered, what are you talking about? I am the saint of the Golden Church. How could I, given your recent attitude? Such words are not convincing at all. Lear shook his head and said, the saint of the Golden Church is actually a pervert? No one would believe this if I told them. The priests of the Holy See are perverts, and the saints are also perverts. Lee's impression of the entire Golden Holy See suddenly changed. If any scandal broke out in the Golden Church in the future, Lear would think it was natural. Ophelia's cheeks flushed, and she felt ashamed and inferior. If people outside knew that Your Highness the Saint had such a habit, would it cause a commotion? The collection of stories about the heretic nun Ophelia that I wrote before was just casual writing. I didn't expect that Your Excellency the Saint, you are not a fictional perverted nun in the book, but a real perverted saint? Lear continued teasing. Stop talking. Ophelia shouted in shame and anger. The Golden Rule source material carriers shame, grief, and inferiority emotional fluctuation values have reached 98%, and you have gained 3% of the Golden Rule affinity. Your Golden Law affinity reaches 30%, you gain strength +2, constitution +2, dexterity +2, intelligence +2, mysticism +2. Following Ophelia's desperate cry, a system panel popped up in front of Lear, and the affinity of the Golden Law successfully reached 30%. Such a rapid improvement in affinity with the law was beyond Lear's expectations. He had prepared a lot of things to increase the affinity of the Golden Law to 30%, but he didn't expect that Ophelia would break through her own defense. It sounds a bit far-fetched to say that the noble saint is actually a hidden pervert. Actually, I think you're more attractive like this. Lily looked into Ophelia's eyes and said with a smile, the saints in the past always had a sense of nobility and holiness, not as kind as you are now. You should face your true heart. Are you facing your true self? Ophelia bit her lip. Was she a perverted woman at heart? How could this happen? I am clearly a saint of the Holy See. She couldn't accept herself like this, so she turned her head away and forced herself not to see Lear's disgusting face. Lear did not embarrass Ophelia any further. It was still a little difficult to make this noble saint suddenly understand that she was actually a perverted woman. Anyway, his goal had been achieved. He turned around and paused deliberately when he walked to the door of the secret room and prepared to leave. "I will come back to torture you again," he chuckled. End of this chapter. Chapter 64. Welcome the evolution of corruption. Why should we be purified if we are not infected? I want to see His Majesty the King. He won't abandon us. We are also citizens of the kingdom. What is the Golden Church doing? Shouldn't they eliminate those damn heretics and save us? In the slums of the royal city, many poor people were attacking the guards' blockade. Ever since the news leaked that the Golden Church and the kingdom were planning to purify the slums, people gathered at the various exits of the slums every day, trying to escape. Among them, some have not been infected with corruption, while others have been infected, and the personnel are complex. The Norton family alone could no longer blockade the entire slum, and the Golden Church and the royal family also sent a large number of people to garrison there. "Sir, I beg you, just take my child out. I have relatives outside. My child is not infected yet. He is only 5 years old and should not be purified." In the crowd, a woman pulled her young child and knelt in front of the professional guards on duty, making a humble request, but the professional guards pushed the woman and child back as if they saw nothing. "I can't stand it. How could they do this?" Not far away, looking at the poor woman, Li Huanhuan said angrily, "Don't be impulsive, this is just a game. Our mission is to monitor the Golden Church and Duke Norton. Don't act on impulse," Dahe hurriedly warned. Li Huanhuan snorted when she heard that. She was still very angry. After hearing from Lear that the Golden Church and Duke Norton wanted to purify and kill everyone in the slums, she thought it was too cruel. Even though she knew it was just a game, she still felt uncomfortable. "We are just gamers, not even professionals. We can't save those poor people at all. And I think the Golden Church's actions are reasonable." Dahe also looked at the poor people kneeling on the ground. In fact, such things also happen in our real world. If the plague is not dealt with in time, it will not only be these poor people who will die when it spreads completely. "Let's go, Duke Norton's ceremony is almost ready, and it's time for us to tell Lear about the situation." Dahe stood up. At Steward Mansion, Lear received the news brought by Li Huanhuan and the other two. He didn't say much. He had seen the changes in the Heavenly King City. Although Duke Norton was supposed to be responsible for purifying the slums, in fact the Royal Golden Church and many nobles were involved. After the purification was leaked, the slum was so large that it could not be contained by just the Duke of Norton. "Mr. Lear, are the poor people in the slums really hopeless?" Li Huanhuan asked somewhat unwillingly. Lear pondered for a moment and said helplessly, "I don't know. If there is anyone who can really save those poor people, it should only be the Savior." Li Huanhuan was silent. Dahe and Yao Yao also stood behind in silence. "Savior? Does this person really exist in this world? Perhaps only the coming of gods can save those poor people." Li Huanhuan felt very disappointed and followed Dahe and the other man out of the mansion. The next day, news came from the Golden Seed. A purification ceremony is about to take place. The Golden Church invited many nobles and even citizens of the royal city to watch. It was cruel, but it was also a way to show the power of the Golden Church. Although the ceremony was held by Duke Norton, everyone knew that Duke Norton was just a pawn, and the real decision was made by the Golden Sea and the royal family. UR has given up everything. Now that the Golden Church's plan to purify the slums has been exposed, he might as well show the power of gold. The entire slum was shrouded in a sacred halo, and the ritual grooves on the ground emitted golden light. Some poor people thought about destroying the ritual array, but as ordinary people, they could not get close to those ravines. The evil corrupt heretics spread the plague in the royal city. They kidnapped the saint lady and the princess, and want to turn the royal city into hell. High Priest Ur stood in the middle of the crowd and said solemnly, "The Golden Church cannot tolerate such evil deeds. We will bring relief to the people infected with the corrupt disease. Let them enter the golden kingdom of heaven without pain." The crowd listened to Ur's speech. Some were disdainful, some were angry, and some were delighted. Not everyone is opposed to the purification of slums. For some people, the poor people in slums are garbage. Isn't it a good thing to purify them? On the roof, two crows watched the scene, and Delic was very angry. The Golden Church always likes to make these high-sounding excuses, and they obviously just kidnapped Tavini. What does the saint and the princess have to do with them? Ever since arriving in the royal city of Brafel, Darich had felt that someone had been secretly discrediting his corrupt sect. After War finished his speech, he signaled Duke Norton to begin the ceremony. Duke Norton reluctantly led the family's magicians to the node of the ritual array and began to inject magic power into the array. The poor people in the slums who were shrouded in the halo went crazy when they saw this scene. "You can't do this? Why do you decide our fate? I don't want to die yet, let me out." They desperately rushed towards the sacred halo, and suddenly two crows flapped their wings and flew up. "Gold has abandoned you. It is not worth believing in." The sudden appearance of two talking crows caused a commotion among the poor. "Do you want to live?" Drich said in a seductive voice. "Live. I want to live." The poor people around seemed to have lost their minds and began to roar. "Very good, then, let's welcome the evolution of corruption." Darich's tone suddenly became high. A pale girl slowly walked out from the crowd. She walked slowly into the middle of the crowd and revealed a pale smile. A dark mist suddenly emanated from the girl's body, then spread rapidly, soon blocking her vision. Immediately afterwards, a horrific explosion sounded. The girl burst open. Duke Norton, who was maintaining the purification array, felt a strong impact, and the sacred halo covering the slums became much dimmer. At this time, UR also came to the node of the magic circle and maintained the operation of the magic circle. "Hold on, those corrupt heretics have already appeared. I will go in and catch them, and you continue to maintain the magic circle." As he spoke, he was about to enter the magic circle, but then another explosion sounded. In a magic circle node not far away, a woman in a wizard robe exploded directly, and the dark mist slowly spread. The faces of the people who saw this scene changed drastically. This was not in the slums, this was outside the magic circle. There are even corrupt believers prepared outside. The ordinary citizens who were watching the scene were stunned for a short while before they fled in panic. King Rosser had not expected this situation, but this is not the end. With the explosive death of the female sorceress, the nodes of the purification array were destroyed and the structure of the entire array collapsed. A hole was opened in the sacred halo, and thick black fog in the slums surged out like a tide. End of this chapter. Chapter 66, Heretics Are Always Heretics. Please subscribe and vote. Two pairs of dark green pupils glowed in the black mist. Deliki looked at the fleeing crowd outside with a disdainful smile. "It's really stupid to set up a purification array with such fanfare to try to lure us out, and even invite so many ordinary people to visit. But since so many people have come, let's turn them all into sacrifices for the corrupt true spirits." As he spoke, he changed into human form and put on a dark robe. "Let's go, Eric, destroy all the nodes of the internal array, and then the corruption will spread to the entire royal city." The two walked towards the location in the slums that was emitting a sacred. Chapter 66, Heretics Are Always Heretics. Please subscribe and vote. Two pairs of dark green pupils glowed in the black mist. Deliki looked at the fleeing crowd outside with a disdainful smile. "It's really stupid to set up a purification array with such fanfare to try to lure us out, and even invite so many ordinary people to visit. But since so many people have come, let's turn them all into sacrifices for the corrupt true spirits." As he spoke, he changed into human form and put on a dark robe. "Let's go, Eric, destroy all the nodes of the internal array, and then the corruption will spread to the entire royal city." The two walked towards the location in the slums that was emitting a sacred light. The hidden internal nodes were revealed one after another because the external nodes were destroyed. As the two walked away, a hideous-looking devil walked out from the dark alley next to them and looked straight at their backs. Outside the slums, there was chaos at this time. At the gap in the magic circle, a large number of poor people turned into horrible undead under the erosion of the corruption disease and rushed towards the urban area. The corruption disease released by the complete corruption mother body is much stronger than the plague spread in the royal city before. Some low-level mages have fallen from the plague, and these mages with weak constitutions also find it difficult to resist this plague. Lear stood in an inconspicuous corner, looking at a scene that looked like the zombie tsunami in his previous life. This disease is more terrible than he imagined. "All professionals above the intermediate level, follow me into the magic circle, eliminate the undead, and search for the whereabouts of the corrupt believers. Focus on searching the magic circle nodes. They must want to destroy all the purification nodes. The rest of you stay outside to block the undead and maintain the magic circle. You must hold out until we have eliminated all the corrupt believers." King Rosser immediately issued orders. The situation was out of control. When constructing the purification array, the Golden Church and the royal family were also constantly on guard against corrupt believers who might detonate the corruption plague prematurely, because once the purification array was formed, even if the corrupt believers detonated the mother body of the corruption disease, they would only be trapped in the slums, but the corrupt believers did not move at all, just quietly watching the magic circle being completed. When the magic circle was completed, the Golden Church and the royal family breathed a sigh of relief. As long as the external nodes of the magic array are not destroyed, the internal nodes of the magic array are hidden and will not be discovered, and the magic array will be impregnable. But no one expected that the wizards of the Norton family would be infiltrated by corrupt believers. The secret of the purification circle has apparently been known to the corrupt believers. So they destroyed an external node of the array, and now the entire purification array is no longer stable. Boom, another loud noise was heard, and the sacred halo of the purification array dimmed again, and the gap in the array became larger. These damn heretics! King Rosser roared and rushed into the magic circle first. Seeing this, the others followed suit. Lear watched this scene and followed carefully as well. There were not many professionals who could reach the intermediate level or above. Dozens of people poured into the purification array and dispersed to the hidden node locations inside the array. The slums occupied a considerable area of the royal city, and Lear was accompanied by Avian. Originally, Lear wanted to act alone to facilitate the next plan, but he couldn't find a reason to get rid of Avian. Many poor people were crawling on the ground, wailing in pain. Their bodies were rapidly decaying, and it wouldn't be long before they would be transformed into undead. Breaking through the poor people who had turned into undead, 3 of them came into the magic circle. Which node are we going to? Avian looked at Lear. Lear pretended to think, pointed in a direction and walked over. Avian followed without hesitation. Eric stood in the thick fog, with a large number of corrupt undead gathered around him. Every time a poor person was transformed into an undead, he could feel himself becoming stronger. At the same time, he can also manipulate the undead around him to fight for him. Derek did not lie to him. The plague warlock could quickly become stronger as long as there were enough undead. He has fallen in love with such power. What if it is heresy? Corruption is stronger than arcane law. Once I turn all the poor people here into undead, I can advance to a higher level. I'm really looking forward to the scene when I step on Lear. His expression must be amazing. Eric said to himself excitedly. Beside him, 3 undead ghosts had strange expressions on their faces when they heard this. Why is this villain so obsessed with revenge on Mr. Lear? When he imprisoned me before, he often expressed dissatisfaction with Lear. There must be some grudge between them. Let's not talk about this. What should we do now? Are we just going to watch? Li Huan and the other 2 were talking in the chat channel, and a new status appeared on their character panels: corruption and undead. Affected by the law of corruption, your body is transformed into an undead and you lose control of your character. The 3 of them were speechless. They had originally just wanted to join in the fun and see what kind of disaster the corrupt believers could cause. But who knew that they would lose control of their characters within seconds of being shrouded in black fog, and couldn't even commit suicide? How come this game has so many settings that restrict players? It's bad enough that you can't commit suicide after being kidnapped, but you can't commit suicide after becoming a ghost either, and you can only become an accomplice of heresy. Forget it, let's just treat it as a movie. The Golden Church and the nobles outside should be able to solve this disaster. He typed helplessly in the chat box. Just as the 3 of them were boredly watching Eric preparing to destroy the node of the magic circle, a figure slowly appeared in the mist not far away. The man was wearing a black robe, had a ferocious face, and flashing scarlet light in his eyes, looking extremely terrifying. Is it Mr. Munger? Li Huan exclaimed in the chat channel. She hadn't seen this blood apostle for a long time. Ever since she accepted the affinity for the blood law, the blood apostles never came to see her again, and she once thought she had been forgotten. She wanted to rush forward immediately to show her loyalty and ask Mr. Munger to grant him the profession of blood law, but now she was a dead spirit. Who? The sudden appearance of the devil scared Eric. He reacted suddenly and looked alert. Blood apostle, Munger. The devil said in a low voice. Eric was stunned for a moment, then seemed to remember something. Are you the blood apostle who was rumored to appear at night? The demon said nothing, but raised his hand, revealing a long, thin sword. What do you want to do? Stop our corrupt sex actions? Eric sneered and said, "It is rumored that you help people in need at night. Many people say that you are a good person. Don't you also think that you are a savior? Have you never looked in the mirror? You look so ugly. You are a heretic, we are all heretics. Do you think if you help these poor people, they will look at you squarely? You can't save those poor people. Even if you stop me, they will only die later. The Golden Church will not be grateful to you. Heretics will always be heretics." End of this chapter. Chapter 67. Eric died. Please subscribe, please vote. Eric's words were full of sarcasm, but they were indeed true. But the character of the blood apostle was just a false illusion deliberately created by Lear. The bloody demon raised the slender rapier in his hand. The incarnation of blood possessed 50% of the power of the original body, excluding equipment. This was a mid-level rapier that Lear had found and was barely enough to use it. The demon raised his head and glanced behind Eric, where two figures were rushing towards him. "You are right. Heretics are always heretics. But I, Munger, never care about other people's opinions when doing things, and I don't need the gratitude of the Golden Church." The devil let out a low roar, and the next second his body turned into a stream of light and rushed towards Eric. The astonishing speed gave Eric a strong sense of déjà vu. Whether it was Lear defeating him in the arena or saving Tivany from him, he used this strange speed. If the blood apostle in front of him had not had a devil-like head, he would have almost thought that the person he was fighting was Lear. The sharp rapier stabbed Eric accurately. Eric waved his hand quickly, and the undead around him blocked his way. The rapier landed on the undead, and the terrifying force directly pierced the undead, just like a spear hanging the corpse in the air. The blood demon swung his sword and threw the undead's body directly to the ground. Then he crushed its head with his foot, and it became completely motionless. Li Huanuan looked at the scene in her perspective where the black sole of a shoe stepped on her face and then crushed her head. Her expression was a little strange. What a domineering and strong power this is. She couldn't help licking her lips, staying in the resurrection space. She couldn't wait to open Yaoyao's live broadcast room and continue watching the heroic figure of the blood apostle. You killed the player Li Huanhuan and gained 100 experience points. The system prompt that suddenly appeared in front of him caused the blood demon's body to stagnate slightly, but it quickly returned to normal. The demon brandished the sharp rapier like an elegant dancer, and as he twisted and turned, all the undead around him were killed. The people of blood should not be eroded by corrupt forces. I will not allow you to continue turning these innocent people into undead. The devil uttered a whisper, and at this moment, two figures not far away finally arrived. Damned heretic! Just surrender! Ivian shouted softly and swung the sword in her hand. The rhythm of war surrounded her body. The next moment, her speed increased dramatically and she rushed directly to the blood demon. The long sword was swung down without mercy, and the demon raised his sword to block. The two weapons collided with each other, making a crisp metallic humming sound. The blood demon felt a powerful force coming from his arm, and then retreated violently. After repelling the blood demon with one sword, Avian looked around carefully. On one side stood Eric, and on the other side was the repelled demon. She recognized the demon, the urban legend of the night in the royal city, the blood apostle. As expected, heretics are heretics. What kind-hearted blood apostle? I think you have already mixed up with the corrupt believers. Avian showed a look of disgust. That's not necessarily true, sister. Lear's voice appeared at the right time. He looked at the angry Avian, and his blood incarnation was directly knocked away by Avian. Didn't Avian hear what the incarnation said just now? Doesn't this clearly show that the blood apostles and the corrupted believers are opposites? Although the intelligence of the war law professionals is not high, it is a bit outrageous that they got such an obvious situation wrong. The corners of Lear's mouth twitched slightly. For the first time, he felt that his sister might be even stupider than he thought. What did you say? Ivian tilted her head and asked in confusion. I think this apostle of blood is the same as us. He is trying to stop Eric from destroying the nodes of the magic circle. Lear judged seriously. How is that possible? Ivian widened her eyes and stopped talking halfway. She suddenly remembered that the blood apostle and Eric seemed to be really fighting each other just now. Beautiful lady, we are not enemies. I am a believer in blood. I will not watch corrupt believers defile blood and deprive lives of blood. The blood demon that was knocked away stood up. Avian was a little suspicious, but after thinking about it carefully, it seemed that she was indeed wrong. But no matter what, heresy is heresy, and she still remains vigilant against the blood apostles. Lear! A roar full of resentment interrupted the conversation of the three. Eric looked at Lear with bloodshot eyes. As the saying goes, enemies become more jealous when they meet. The scenes of being defeated by Lear countless times emerged in Eric's mind, and the anger burned Eric's reason. He suddenly pulled open his robe, and black mist mixed with countless mosquitoes and flies flew out, then slowly wrapped him up. Gradually, his body became taller and turned into a giant, carrion giant. This was not the first time Lear had seen one, but compared to the last time he saw it, this giant was only 3 meters tall, and the power it produced was not as strong as the previous carrion giant. The 3-meter-tall carrion giant swung its bloated arms and smashed down directly at Lear, accompanied by a large number of filthy mosquitoes and flies. Seeing this, Ivian's expression froze and she stabbed her sword into the ground. The roar of war gathered around her and gradually formed a storm. As the roar of the law of war grew louder and louder, the roar of the storm also became more intense, and she suddenly pulled the sword out of the ground and pointed it at the carrion giant. The howling storm swept in with a strong shock wave and blasted out directly. War Knight's skill raised the storm. The terrifying force blew up the wooden houses around. The carrion giants that were originally rushing over were defeated in the storm, and a large number of mosquitoes and flies were blown away. Avian seized the opportunity and swung a storm blade. The long sword was wrapped in the power of the storm and chopped straight at the carrion giant. Lear was not idle either. He gathered his arcane powers and fired the arcane cannon. I'm here to help you too. The blood demon also rushed up, flashing a strong red light. The mosquitoes and flies that were blown away stopped in the air one by one, and dirty liquid flowed down, then fell to the ground and turned into corpses. Lear, do you dare to challenge me to a formal duel? Being besieged by 3 people, Eric was furious. The consumption of the carrion giant was huge, and he could not last too long. Lear just smiled when he heard this. Why fight alone when you can fight in a group? This is not an arena. Lear, Eric roared, becoming more and more manic. The carrion giant is very powerful, and ordinary slashing and stabbing attacks cannot cause effective damage at all, but it is too clumsy. Ivian also figured out the weakness of the carrion giant and did not fight hard. After only 3 minutes, Eric recovered from the carrion giant state. His face was full of resentment, but there was no fear at all. Do you think you won? Lear, and you ridiculous blood apostles, you can't stop the coming of corruption. As soon as he finished speaking, Lear instantly felt a hint of danger, and a magician's shield blocked himself, and Avian Eric in front of him exploded without any warning, and rotten flesh and body parts flew everywhere. You killed Eric's rotten flesh doll. The system prompt appeared, and Lear frowned. Another rotten meat doll. When Ivian came to her senses, she was being held in Lear's arms. She looked at the mess on the ground and knew that it was Lear who protected her. She struggled to stand up from Lear's arms. As a sister, it was really embarrassing to be protected by her younger brother. She bit her lip and looked around. Eric was dead and the blood apostle was gone. Only Lear looked thoughtful. She opened her mouth and was about to say something when a loud noise was heard not far away. The halo of the magic circle in the sky was disappearing rapidly, and the thick black fog was swirling violently. What happened? Ivian asked in horror. Lear looked in the direction of the explosion, where a tall dark shadow was looming in the black fog. End of this chapter. Chapter 68, Eternal Life in Blood. Please subscribe and vote. On the other side, the heart of the slum, is this the high priest of the Golden Church? And the king of the kingdom of Briefel? If they are only of this level, then this royal city should be handed over to our corrupt sect. In the black fog, the rotten giant waved his arms, and countless poor people who had turned into undead under the giant's feet were providing him with magic power. After transforming so many poor people into undead, Derek has broken through to the extraordinary level and gained new abilities. As long as the undead in the slums are not completely dead, he can remain in the state of a carrion giant, and as the number of undead increases, the carrion giant will become taller and more powerful. Deliki laughed and suddenly looked in another direction. Eric's aura disappeared. What a useless piece of trash, but it doesn't matter. The entire purification array had been destroyed by him and was riddled with holes. The remaining nodes in the array would be corroded by the black fog of corruption and disease without his taking any action. The sacred golden law dispelled the corrupt magic in the surroundings, but it still seemed tiny compared to the rotting giant that was dozens of meters tall. Ur looked at the rotten giant in front of him and felt a little anxious. Before in the Empire, the chosen one of the corrupted sect was also an extraordinary plague warlock, and the rotten giant fused by that chosen one. was only more than 10 meters tall. Even that rotten giant over 10 meters long was defeated only by the joint efforts of the 3 high priests of the Golden Church, but the carrion giant in front of him has grown to a height of 30 meters and is still growing slowly. Many professionals around were showing fear. Even the king and the Golden High Priest, 2 extraordinary professionals, could not do anything to the carrion giant. What could they do? Golden fury. Storm of light. An angry roar was heard. King Rosser held a sharp blade. He had not given up yet. The golden law around him trembled, and the dazzling light instantly dispelled the black fog. Rosser rushed up to the arms of the carrion giant and ran quickly on the giant's body. Countless golden law lights turned into a storm that tore apart the body of the carrion giant. In the light, the body of the carrion giant gradually turned into ashes, and some professionals seemed to see hope, but Uar's face was still gloomy. If the carrion giant was only at this level, there would be no need for the 3 great priests to join forces. The undead on the ground slowly moved towards the carrion giant, stuck to its body, and then slowly merged into it. The body of the rotten giant, which had been purified by the storm of light, grew back. Rosser also saw this scene. If all the undead were not eliminated, the carrion giant would be invincible. He glanced around and saw that almost all the poor people were gathered here. Some had been transformed into undead, and some were struggling in pain. The scene was like hell. After a brief silence, Rosser's eyes became deep, and he shouted, "Everyone, give up attacking the carrion giant, and focus on clearing out the undead and poor people around you." "Sir, you are. It should be no problem for us to hold back the carrion giant together." He looked at Uar again. "Of course, no problem." Wu Er nodded immediately. "I am a royal guard knight. Maybe I am not your opponent when it comes to hurting you, but no one can resist more than me." After hearing Rosser's order, the professionals around hesitated for a moment, but finally gritted their teeth and took action against the poor people around them. The poor people who were supposed to be purified by the magic circle now need them to do it themselves. There are still people struggling among them. It is a massacre, but it is also the only way to defeat the carrion giants. "Your Majesty, why are you killing us? Aren't we your people? Why does the Golden Church want to eliminate us? Doesn't the Golden Law favor every believer?" The poor people who still had some sense were struggling and crying. Rosser felt a little sad. As the king of the kingdom, he couldn't even save his own people and could only send them to death with his own hands. The professionals around also gritted their teeth, but showed no mercy and used all their abilities to kill the poor people. At this moment, a figure fell from the sky. "It's really unbearable. Is the Golden Law so weak? It can't even protect its own believers." A deep voice sounded, and everyone was attracted by the person who suddenly appeared. The bloody demon stood among the struggling poor. His face was hideous, but he had an elegant temperament. "Who are you?" Rosser was stunned. "I am an apostle of blood, a believer in blood. All creatures with blood flowing are the people of blood." The bloody demon spoke word by word, looking at the poor people struggling around him. "Do you want to survive?" Survive. This word was like a light in the darkness, allowing the poor who were already in despair to see the light. "Can you save us?" The girl whose cheeks had begun to decay asked the demon in front of her. "As long as you are willing, the law of blood will save you." The devil stroked the girl's white hair. "Can it really save us?" someone else asked. "Of course," the demon said softly. A glimmer of hope appeared in the eyes of the poor people who were struggling around them. The Golden Church and the royal family abandoned them, and they lived in fear and despair since before the purification ceremony began, until the magic circle was opened and corruption broke out completely. And now, no matter who it is, even a devil, as long as he can save them, he is there. "Light, we have to survive. Please save us." Noisy and faint shouts spread all around, and the bloody demon stood in the center like a savior. He pulled out a small bottle and drank the liquid from it. "Either die in disgrace or live forever in blood. Gold will betray you, but as long as blood still flows in your bodies, you will always be the people of blood. The blood law will be revived in the new era." The demon's tone became high-pitched, like an apostle preaching. In the shocked eyes of everyone, the bloody demon slowly rose into the air, and a sacred golden light suddenly burst out. The terrifying holy light instantly broke through the pervasive black fog, and the golden beam of light shot straight into the sky. With the blessing of the blue secret dewdrops, the blood incarnation desperately performed the hymn of hope, rapidly expanding the range. He only has 60 seconds, and within these 60 seconds, he can do whatever he wants. The solemn singing spread in the air, and the black fog covering the entire slum quickly melted away. The poor people around were returning to normal at a speed visible to the naked eye. Even the poor people who had been transformed into undead were transformed into humans under the holy light. Rosser and Uar, who were delaying the carrion giant, were staring at this scene in a daze. This familiar power was the power of the golden law. The demon before him was filled with the aura of heretical laws, but why could he exert such a strong power of the golden law? Could it be that the heretic in front of us is also a believer of the golden rule? Witness the miracle from the blood law. Another loud shout was heard, and the black fog around them dissipated completely. Uar's face turned red. How could a heretic use such a powerful golden law skill, more powerful than him, an extraordinary golden high priest? Are you a believer of gold or am I? Besides, you were clearly using the power of the golden law, but you said it was the blood law. This way of telling lies with one's true eyes is really against Tiangong. This is heresy that blasphemes the golden law. It is absolutely unforgivable. Uar shouted angrily. What greeted him was the huge fist of the carrion giant, which smashed Uar directly into the ground with one punch. End of this chapter. Chapter 69. The Golden Law Goddess is angry. Please subscribe and vote. Witness the miracles of the blood law. With the power of the hymn of hope, the voice spread throughout the entire royal city. Outside the slums, the citizens who were originally fleeing in all directions only felt a warm light shining on themselves. The undead who were originally fighting frantically also stopped. Under the unbelievable gaze of everyone, the originally terrifying and hideous undead were actually quickly returning to their original state. The glorious and majestic figure in the sky was engraved in everyone's mind. Some of them knelt down in worship, while others bowed their heads and prayed in their hearts. Li Huanhuan and the other two who had just resurrected also saw the figure in the air. Li Huanhuan pointed at the blood apostle and said excitedly, "It's Mr. Munger. I knew that the blood cult is a righteous sect." Yao Yao and Dahe looked at each other when they heard this, feeling the warm holy light around them, and always felt a little strange. At the gate of the royal city, a group of people walked slowly into the royal city, and the guards around them showed respectful looks. The burly man with a scar on his face also saw the holy light rising into the sky and heard the solemn declaration, "Has anything big happened in the royal city recently?" The big man muttered to himself, "Uncle Albert, it's time for us to go in." The accompanying girl reminded, this was a girl with animal ears and a tail. She looked capable and cute. The soldiers around her looked away after just one glance. In the slums, the poor people who had recovered all around knelt on the ground and prayed devoutly to the blood apostle in the air. Those who were saved have already regarded the blood apostles as gods. Many professionals were a little at a loss when looking at the blood demon in the air. This believer in the heretical law purified all the undead and even cured the corruption. But this still cannot deny the fact that he is a heretic of the blood law. They kept it in mind at this moment. Dai in the alley nearby, Lear and Avian finally arrived. Looking at the figure in the sky, Lear showed a strange smile on his face. He bent down and calmly picked up the small blue bottle that had been thrown on the ground at some point. This blood apostle is actually saving the poor. Avian's eyes flickered slightly. This scene directly shattered her impression of heresy. Lear remained silent, as this was the plan he had made from the beginning. The skill of Anthem of Hope can only be released by the blood apostle. If he releases it himself, it is impossible to explain why he can use the power of the golden law. Could it be that he became a professional of the three laws? That was a bit far-fetched. Therefore, using the identity of blood apostle is the best choice. Not only can it greatly increase the spread of the blood law, but it can also complete the mission of being the savior to save the poor, killing two birds with one stone. Your actions have caused praise from the residents of the royal city, and the reputation of the blood law has spread more widely in the royal city area. The upgrade of the system panel came late, and Lear looked at it with satisfaction. Once the matter of the corrupt believers was resolved and fermented for a few days, the task should be completed. Just when he was in a good mood, the system panel in front of him suddenly shook, as if it had been hit hard. The content on the panel changes rapidly. Your behavior has caused the wrath of the golden law goddess. Your golden law affinity has decreased by 10%, your golden law affinity has dropped to 20%, you gain strength -2, constitution -2, dexterity -2, intelligence -2, mysticism -2, the holy rank skill Anthem of Hope will be banned after use and cannot be used? The smile on Lear's face froze instantly, but it was not over yet. Your actions have won the favor of the Lord of Blood, and your affinity for the blood law has increased by 10%, your affinity for the blood law has reached 90%, and you have gained constitution +5, mystic +5, you have obtained 5% of the blood law essence, and the current blood law essence is 10%. You have obtained the title, Blood King. Blood Law career tree is now open. You can learn other Blood Law career skills. Title, Blood King. Introduction. Each god can only have one king. The king is the spokesperson of the god and the sustenance of the god. This is an eternal oath that cannot be betrayed. You have been favored by the Lord of Blood and are the King of Blood. Lear was dazzled by the series of system prompts. Was the Golden Law goddess furious? Was she favored by the Lord of Blood? Lear had no idea what these secret gods were thinking, but he was sure of one thing, that he had received attention from the gods, but not just the Lord of Blood. At least the goddess of the Golden Law was watching him. Otherwise, how could the affinity of the Golden Law be lowered? After playing the game for so long in his previous life, this was the first time he knew that the affinity with the law could be reduced, but it's only reduced by 10%. With this level, if you torture your saint again, it will easily go back up, Lear thought to himself and found it a little funny. As he thought about it, another question came to his mind. Since the goddess of the Golden Law was watching him, she should also know that Saint Ophianina was imprisoned by him. Why didn't the Golden Church react at all? While Lear was thinking, the high priest Uar, who was smashed into the ground, crawled out. He completely forgot about the rotten giant beside him and said in a harsh voice, "Everyone, eliminate the followers of the blood cult." This order stunned everyone present. Cleanse the blood of pagans. If it was normal, there would be no problem, but now they are purifying the slums. Judging from the scope, the entire royal city has been taken over. Are you going to clear them out now? Before the professionals around them could take action, the recovered poor people became angry. They had already turned into undead, and it was the law of blood that saved them. Now the Golden Church is planning to eliminate the apostles of the law of blood. What basis does the Golden Church have to say that Lord Blood is a heretic? You couldn't save us, it was Lord Blood who saved us. The Golden Church is a heresy. Angry voices rose one after another, and when Uar heard the last sentence that the Golden Church was the heresy, he could no longer bear it. Is the Golden Church a heresy? It is the power of the Golden Law that saves you, these damned untouchables who are blinded by the pagans. Uar was furious, but before he could attack the blood apostle in the air, the carrion giant beside him took action. Damned blood apostle, what have you done? The body of the carrion giant has now shrunk significantly, and is only about 10 meters tall. It has shrunk by more than half compared to the previous 30 or 40 meters. All the undead around him were purified, and without the supply of magic power, his strength was disappearing rapidly. Adrich tried to spread the plague of corruption again, but those purified poor people seemed to be blessed by some power, and the plague of corruption could not penetrate them at all. Of the shrunken but still huge carrion giant stretched out his hand and hit the blood apostle in the air. Everyone was a little confused when they saw this. On one side was the order of High Priest Uar, and on the other side was the heresy that could purify the royal city. Before anyone could react, Lear had already rushed forward. How could he let others ruin his good deed? Although things are almost over, we still have to maintain the style of the blood apostle. The arms of the knight rose and the carrion giant collided with each other, and shockingly, Lear was able to withstand it. Lear, King Rosser was somewhat moved as he watched this scene. A mid-level professional can do this, so why should he hesitate? Stuart boy, do you want to disobey the will of the Golden Rule and collude with heretics? Uar shouted angrily. You are under extraordinary level of pressure. All damage you cause is reduced by half. Lear panted. It was too difficult for him to fight against the extraordinary with his intermediate strength. He raised his huge arm and said with disdain, Your Excellency the High Priest, I have already said it before, I am Lear Stuart. We, the Stuart family, have never believed in gold. Well said. Immediately following Lear's words, a deep voice came from not far away. A burly man carrying a huge sword walked slowly towards them, accompanied by a girl with animal ears. End of this chapter. Chapter 70, The Source of War Law, Subscription Request, Monthly Ticket Request. The burly man held a giant sword as tall as a man, but he held it in his hand as if it were a toy. All the professionals looked over, and some recognized the man's identity and showed expressions of awe. Albert, King Rosser whispered the man's name, Albert Stuart, the present Duke of Stuart. Lear was also stunned for a moment, and memories emerged in his mind. He hadn't seen his father for a long time. As early as the age of 7, the original body ran away from home and followed Divine to the royal city, where he changed his job to a mage. Now more than 10 years have passed, he has not returned home, and Albert has not come to see him. Looking at the burly man in front of him, Lear's eyes were somewhat deep. He had not taken care of his father for so many years. Why did he come here now? Long time no see, Rosser. Albert inserted the giant's sword into the ground, and the ground shook. Even though he called the king by his name, Rosser was not angry at all. The professionals around him were also suppressed and silent by Albert's powerful aura. This is the Duke of Stuart, who was already an extraordinary professional 20 years ago and was known as a legend in the kingdom. The Lion of Stuart was an existence that was capable of defeating 10,000 armies by himself. Almost all of the slightly older professionals present grew up listening to the legend of Albert, especially the war law professionals among them, who regarded Albert as an idol. Albert, it's true that we haven't seen each other for a long time, but I'm sorry that I can't greet you now. As you can see, the royal city is suffering from a disaster. Rosser sighed helplessly. As a king, he talked to Albert as if he were a friend. Of course I saw it. Albert nodded. How could I turn a blind eye to someone bullying my son? Albert. Even if it is you, if you want to shelter heretics, you will definitely be held accountable by the Golden Church. You are, said to Albert with a fearful look on his face. Our Stuart family will not protect heresy. We only believe what we see, and my son has also said. Albert suddenly raised his giant sword. Stuart has never believed in gold. You bug over there. My Albert's son is not someone you can bully. He roared, and a phantom of a lion appeared behind him, and the whole person jumped high. Lionheart slash. The tall sword was like thunder, and the lion pounced directly on the carrion giant. Under the shocked gaze of everyone, the sword cut through the carrion giant's body like a hot knife through butter. One arm and half of the body were actually cut off directly. Even Lear showed a shocked expression. Even though he used Aslan's royal swordsmanship and added all the attribute points to strength, he could only barely withstand the heavy blow of the carrion giant, and his father was split in half by the carrion giant with just one sword? As expected, he is the Lion of Stuart. The war law professional at the side revealed a fanatical expression. Lear escaped from the blow of the carrion giant. The blood apostle in the sky was also about to reach the time limit of the blood incarnation. He controlled the blood incarnation and shouted, "Blood lives forever." This voice also spread throughout the entire royal city. After the voice fell, the blood apostle turned into a blood mist and disappeared into thin air. What kind of monster are you? How is it possible that you have such great power? The rotten giant that was split in half revealed the body of Dritch inside, and he had an expression of disbelief. Albert didn't waste any words. He glanced at Darich, rushed to Darich, and chopped him down on the head with the giant sword, directly smashed Darich's body to pieces. What is the powerful flying brick? The carrion giant, who was unable to hold off so many people and two extraordinary professionals, and King Rosser, was easily defeated by Albert in 2 moves. In the crowd, Duke Norton swallowed his saliva. He had only heard of the legend of Duke Stuart. This was the first time he saw the Duke Stuart's true strength. Have I been discrediting such a strong person all this time? He was sweating all over. The carrion giant was solved just like that, and the blood apostle disappeared out of thin air. Everyone present felt like they were dreaming. Father! Avian threw herself into Albert's arms with eyes full of admiration. Lear also walked silently to Albert's side and said with a smile, "Father. I'm glad you're still willing to call me father." Albert looked at Lear and nodded. He patted Lear on the shoulder and said, "Some things are inconvenient to talk about now. Let's talk about it when we're alone." "Father, what do you want to say?" Ivian asked with some confusion. "It's just some trivial matter." Albert laughed, then turned and walked towards King Rosser. After Albert turned around, Lear's expression became a little ugly. He couldn't understand what his father was thinking. Had the fact that he traveled through time and space and was possessed been exposed? "Are you Uncle Albert's son?" A voice suddenly sounded when Lear was thinking. The girl with animal ears and tail walked up to Lear. She looked at Lear curiously, slowly approached Lear, and sniffed the scent on Lear. "Well, you have a strong smell of the law of war. It seems that the rumors are true. You have indeed been favored by war," she said seriously. Lear was a little confused. He looked up at the girl with animal ears and asked, "Who are you?" "I'm Greta Cardanus," the girl with animal ears replied. "Greta?" Lear looked up and down at the girl in front of him. Girls with animal ears and tails were rare in the game. This reminded him of a family force in the game. One of the three archon families of the Church of War, the Lionheart family Cardanus, which commands the War Knights, causes a certain degree of negative emotional fluctuations in the carrier of the law source, and can gain corresponding law affinity. The system prompt panel suddenly popped up. Lear's eyes widened, and his gaze towards Greta changed immediately. "What's wrong?" Greta frowned. Lear's gaze made her feel like a hunter looking at his prey. "Nothing, Miss Greta. I wonder what your relationship with your father is." Lear waved his hands quickly. "Don't you know?" Greta was a little surprised. "Should I know?" Lear replied innocently. Greta shrugged her nose, feeling a little strange, but did not explain, just whispered, "It seems that you really don't care about the Stuart family's affairs as the rumors say." After she finished speaking, she turned and walked towards Albert in front of her. "Thanks to Shangri-La Jian for the 2,000 points reward, and thanks to Lance the Gentleman and Shueyue Guhan for the 100 points reward."